Hey everyone, thank you for watching and welcome back to a new declutter. Alright, we are rolling along with my declutter series. I will have my playlist linked down below if you want to catch any of my past declutters. But I ask every week what you want to see next because I do declutter each category of my makeup collection until we do them all. And I saw quite a few requests for concealers and a lot of those comments had a lot of thumbs up. So that is what we are going to be working on today. This is my current concealer collection. So I'm going to be going through in my declutters. I do like to talk about each product, why I like it, why I don't, why it works, why it doesn't, and then decide what I'm going to keep and what I am going to declutter. So let's hop into it. So for my concealer collection, this is a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is a lot of concealers. It's actually not quite as much as I was thinking it might be, which is a good thing. But I feel like from the last concealer declutter that I did, I really haven't added on too many. I've definitely added some new ones, but I don't feel like I've added on too many. So I'm happy with this, but I still feel like I can cut some down because, you know, in each category of my makeup collection, I have those products that I continually go back to, that I love to wear, that don't let me down. And then I have some that I just very rarely touch. So that's kind of what my goal is, just looking at my concealers here. Just found this one under the blanket. Whoops. So I'm going to put that one back. So starting us off, I have this one from e.l.f. Cosmetics. This is the 16-hour Camo Concealer. The shade that I have in this one is in Medium Sand. So this is a fantastic concealer. I'm such a fan of this one. It's from e.l.f. Cosmetics. It is so affordable. You have a larger doe foot here. Medium Sand is a great shade match for me. I mean, I guess I can go ahead and, you know, kind of dot the concealer on if you want to get a shade idea. I did turn my brightness down, so hopefully the shade matching is looking pretty okay and not too blown out with my lights, since I'm filming at 5 o'clock and it's already getting dark here. Like I was saying, I think that this is a fantastic concealer, definitely a favorite of mine. I recommend it so much. There's quite a few drugstore concealers that I'm a fan of that you're going to see in this video, and I would recommend this one from e.l.f., so I'm going to keep that one. On the flip side though, this is a newer one from e.l.f. This is their Hydrating Camo Concealer. Now I thought I was going to like this more because a lot of times I do have drier under eyes, so I like concealers if they're going to be a little bit more hydrating, but this one really caught me off guard. So the shade that I have is Fair Beige, and shade matching was kind of harder with this one. So you once again have the larger doe foot, but the first shade that I got was way too light. I went in store and I exchanged it for this one, and I mean, if you can even tell between these two, it is still it's still just too light for me. And also I feel like it's drier than the original Camo Concealer, which was very surprising to me since this one was supposed to be the more hydrating. But I just do not prefer this one. I feel like it makes my dry under eyes look even drier. It emphasizes like any issues that I might be having. I just much prefer the other one. So I'm actually just going to declutter this one. Speaking of affordable, I have these ones here from Pat McGrath. Is a joke. They're both the Skin Fetish Sublime concealers. I did get this sent over to me from Pat McGrath, which is why I have two shades. I don't think that I would have purchased two on my own, even though I really, really like this concealer. But I have shades L6 and L7. Here we have L6 and here we have L7. So L6 is, it's a little bit more on that brightening side. So this is what I will primarily use on my under eyes. And then L7 is really good for spot concealing. This concealer impresses me for a few different reasons. I think that it looks great on the under eyes. I think it offers you a nice amount of coverage. It is not drying, blends out so easily. It still gives you that great coverage, like I said, but also spot concealing. It is so great for that. L6 I do sometimes just feel like is a little bit too light, or again a little bit more in that brighter tone that I don't want to brighten up the spots that I'm trying to conceal. So that's why L7 works well for that. But this is a really, really nice concealer from Pat McGrath. I definitely recommend it, and I will be keeping both of these. Another affordable one, this is from Milani. This is the Conceal and Perfect Concealer. You can tell by my bottle here, this is another favorite of mine. There was a point in time where drugstore brands were coming out with new concealers, like a lot of them were coming out with new concealers at once. and I was just being impressed left and right, and Milani definitely falls into that category. The shade I have is in Light Natural, and once again, this is more full coverage. It is how it says long wear concealer. I do find it to be nice and long wearing. Once again, it's not going to be dry. It's easy to blend out. It kind of ticks all of the boxes that I look for in my concealer, which is full coverage without drying, easy to blend out, and sticks around for a long time. That is what I like. This definitely falls into that, and I would recommend this. I'm going to keep it. This is the one that had fallen underneath the blanket. This is from Urban Decay. This is their Stay Naked Correcting Concealer. This is not one that I'm a big fan of. I have the shade 20CP. The shade is a little bit more on that lighter side for me, but it can do a good job brightening the under eyes. But this is one that I do find to be drying. I don't find it to be the easiest to blend out. I just don't reach for it very often because I don't feel like it does my under eyes any sort of favors. So I'm going to declutter this one. Next up, I have this one from Giorgio Armani. This is the Power Fabric Concealer. This is so beautiful. I bought this mostly off recommendation of Mel Thompson a while back in a Sephora sale, and I have not regretted it. I have the shade 3.5, and while yes, this one is pricey, I really don't feel like I have a concealer like this in my collection. This is so lightweight. It has a little bit more almost of like this thinner texture to it, but it is so easy to blend out that I can so easily use my fingers. This is one that I would always kind of pop into my travel bag because I could be on the road and wanting to freshen up and just tap this on my under eyes, blend it out with my fingers. I could be like at the airport trying to make myself look a little bit more alive. And once again, I could place this on my under eyes or anywhere on my face and just blend it out with my fingers. It is just, the blendability on this one is unlike any concealer that I have. And I worried that that would mean that I wouldn't get a lot of coverage with it, like it wouldn't really be doing a lot, but it does. It has a nice coverage too. It just feels like I'm wearing nothing when I use this. And again, I know it's really pricey, but this is one that I will want to continue to have in my collection. Definitely keeping it. Next up, I have this one from Dose of Colors. This is the Meet Your Hue Concealer. I have the shade 11 or Light Medium. This is a concealer that I can use on my under eyes, especially if I use a bit of a brightening powder to kind of lighten up the shade, but it's also really good at spot correcting. This reminds me a little bit of the e.l.f. concealer actually, and the e.l.f. is going to be a lot more affordable, but I really do like Dose of Colors. I get interested in their new releases. I bought both the foundation and the concealer. The foundation unfortunately was just not a good shade match for me. I ended up decluttering that one, but I really do like this concealer, so I'm definitely going to keep this one too. Next, I have this one from Colourpop. This is their Pretty Fresh Hyaluronic Creamy Concealer. The shade Medium 83C, which is swatched right here. This is just not one that I really love. There's not been a ton of the Colourpop complexion products that I kind of lose my mind over. Actually, their Pretty Fresh foundation that they just came out with, that one I really do like, but I was really looking forward to trying out this concealer, and it just didn't do much for me. Once again, I found it just to be more on the drier side and a little bit harder to blend out, and it's just not a concealer that I feel like makes my under eyes look more improved. I didn't really find it to be great for spot concealing either. So I'm actually going to declutter this one. Next, I have this one from Covergirl. This is their True Blend Undercover Concealer. I have the shade Classic Beige, so does the second swatch there. Once again, when I mentioned the drugstore brands coming out with really great concealers, this is another one that I consider in that category. I was so impressed with this. This one is currently in my Shop My Stash bag, so I'm definitely going to be keeping it, but also I just really do enjoy this one. I would definitely recommend it. Once again, you get more coverage to it, but it's easy to blend out. It's not too dry, just all of those favorites that I've been mentioning with my concealers, and yeah, I think that this is a good one. Moving over to this one from Ilia Beauty. This is their True Skin Serum Concealer. This one is in the shade 1.5. I feel like swatching it, it doesn't look too bad or maybe like too different from all of the other concealer swatches that I've done. But when I put this on, it just looks so yellow to me. When I put it on my under eyes, I immediately feel like I just have added a yellow tone, and it makes me not a big fan of it. I really like that actual concealer. The formula I think is really nice. Once again, how it says it's the Serum Concealer. It has a little bit more of that thinner texture. It's so easy to blend out. It is really, really lightweight. This one doesn't have the most amount of coverage to it. It's a little bit on, you know, like the light to medium, I would say. It's not a super light coverage, but it's not more of that full coverage that I tend to enjoy. But again, I really don't reach for this one often because I just don't love the shade match for me. So even though I like the formula, I'm actually going to declutter this one. I have this one here from Kokie Cosmetics. This is their Be Bright Illuminating Concealer. I have the shade Light, and once again, you can kind of tell that it is pretty light. I mean, I definitely get that brightening effect, but it's a little bit, sometimes it can be a little bit too light for me. And once again, I can really only use it on my under eyes. I can't really use it to a spot conceal. Really looking forward to trying this one because I've heard some really great reviews on it, but unfortunately, I just didn't think that it worked well for me. Again, just a little bit drier. It has more of, almost like more of a liquidy consistency. So I thought when I was first applying it that I was really going to enjoy it. And I just do not. I don't tend to reach for this one, so I'm going to declutter this. Next up from Hourglass, I have their Vanish Concealer, the shade Silk, and this one I am a fan of. Now, when I first tried it, I did not think I was going to like it, and I've realized since trying it more, you really just need the smallest amount of this one. A very tiny amount will get you a long way, and if you use too much, it's gonna be too heavy and just almost too cakey on the under eyes, and that's what I was doing at first when I was trying this. I kept using it. I'd been hearing some good reviews, so I was like, well, let's just keep trying it. And again, the smallest amount is going to go a long way. But once I did that, it's beautiful. It's more full coverage, and I just think it looks really, really good on my skin. And it's actually been one that I've been reaching for more and more and more recently. So this was one that I definitely changed my mind about from my initial, you know, first 2-3 times that I tried it, but I'm definitely holding on to this one. I have this here from Charlotte Tilbury. This is the, I believe this is called, like, again, like the Vanish Concealer, and this is the shade One or Fair. I just tried to do a little swatch of it here with my finger, so it's, you know, going to be a little bit different, but I like this one so much. Once again, it's going to be a little bit lighter, but how this says, it's like the Vanish Corrector, I think is the term. I'll have all of these linked down below, of course, if you're interested in checking any of them out. But this does such a good job of like instantly hiding dark circles. I don't sleep well, and I appreciate that so much. This is one that I especially focus on, that real inner part of my eye where I can get a lot of blueness or a lot of those dark tones peeking through. This immediately hides them, and I was so impressed with that. But once again, it's lightweight. It gives me this nice coverage, and even though I'm not a big fan of more of these pot concealers, this is one that I enjoyed. Definitely holding on to this one and would recommend. All right, next up I have a favorite of mine. I've talked about this on my channel for a long time. This is from Too Faced, the Born This Way Multi-Use Sculpting Concealer. I do have 2 shades. I did get this sent to me from Too Faced also, which is, you know, why I have 2 shades. I have nude and also light beige. So you can see nude is just a little bit lighter than light beige. It's a favorite concealer of mine because I can use it as a concealer for my under eyes. I can also use it to spot conceal. I can use both shades for that. But also if I'm having a time where I just really don't want to do like a full-on foundation routine, I just want to do a little concealer on the under eyes, a little bit of spot concealing, and then go in with some powder. This is my favorite one to do that with because it's definitely a more full coverage concealer, but it's in a way where it's not heavy, it's not cakey, and it can just look so natural when I do that technique on my face. I'm just a fan of these. I go into them so much. I do enjoy having both of the shades also, but I would really recommend it. I'm definitely keeping these. Next up from First Aid Beauty, this is their Hello Fab Bendy Avocado Concealer. I have the shade 3, which is right here, and once again, this is one of those that you might be able to tell from the different swatches that it just doesn't look great on me. I mentioned this one in a previous declutter, and I talked about the shade match being an issue for me, but I said that I did like the formula. It's more lightweight, it's really easy to blend out. Again, kind of one of those more liquidy concealers. Not the most full coverage that I get from this one, but I still really liked the formula, but the shade 3 just really does not work for me. It's too yellow, it is too dark, and it's just not one that I reach for, so I'm just gonna declutter this. I have this one from Jouer. This is their Essential High Coverage Liquid Concealer. This poor one from Jouer, this was like a tippy top favorite of mine at one point, and there's just been so many good concealers coming out, so many good drugstore concealers coming out, that this one is, I mean, it's still one that I really enjoy, but I can tell that I haven't been reaching for it quite as much these days. The shade that I have is in Creme Cafe, so started another column over here. Once again, I feel like in declutters I say the same words a lot, but especially when I'm talking about, you know, the same products in a category. That's kind of what happens, but more full coverage, which I appreciate. This one, I do think it tends to lean a little bit on the dry side. Sometimes with this, I like to apply to one eye, blend it out, and then apply to the other eye, because otherwise I can find it to be a little bit too drying. So I think that's really the main reason why it started to get bumped down as I was trying other ones that still gave me that full coverage, but I didn't have to worry about that drying issue, and it still blended out so nicely. But it's still a good one. It's still one that I do want to keep around in my collection. It's one of my newer concealers. I don't think I've reviewed this yet on my channel. I have it next up in my Makeup Monthly video, but I thought that I could include it because I do have some thoughts on it. But from Neutrogena, this is their Radiant Cream Concealer. I have the shade Light 2, and I really like this one. I got this at Walmart. I can't remember the exact price on it, but I did purchase this one from Walmart when I was looking at some of their new drugstore releases. And I'm a fan. Again, how it says Radiant Cream Concealer, I can definitely see that. It has this brightening effect to it without it just being a shade that's too light for me. Like, it still gives that brightening effect. It's really easy to blend out, more on that creamy side. I would say it's more of like this medium to full coverage. Like, it's not the most full coverage concealer that I have, but it definitely gives a little bit more oomph to it. I've been really impressed with this. I'm gonna keep it. All right, so I have two here from Nars. One is one of their newer products. This is their Soft Matte Concealer, and I have the shade Creme Brulee. I've been talking about this a lot on my channel. I've mentioned it in my Sephora recommendations. I've mentioned it as a favorite. And this one right here is the 2.5. I had to swatch it with my knuckle because it's so far down with my nails. I can't even fit my finger into that, but that's just how much I love this one. I mentioned that I think it's fantastic for spot concealing. I have a lot of like acne scarring and red spots from hormonal acne. This covers up so well. It has just been a go-to product of mine, but it also looks really beautiful on my under eyes and on other areas of my face, and it's a huge favorite for me. So obviously keeping this one. And then the other one that I have is kind of like that OG, the Radiant Creamy Concealer from Nars. Honestly, I could kind of see Neutrogena being similar in formula to it. This is one that I tried years ago. I did not love it. And then I tried it again when Nars sent me this mini, and I was like, wait, maybe I don't dislike it as much as I thought I did. The shade that I have in this one is Light Vanilla, which again is it's a little bit too light for me on just kind of like an everyday basis. It's pretty for brightening. It's a little bit light though, and while I'm glad that I was able to give it a second chance and I realized that I didn't dislike it as much as I thought I did a few years ago, especially because the shade match is not great for me. I have that one from Neutrogena that I think is similar, and just the Nars Soft Matte is and to me personally, I feel like is a lot better than this one. I'm actually going to declutter this. Lastly, I have another new one to me. This is from Rare Beauty. The shade I have is 200C, so it's the swatch right there on my knuckle. I like this one. I think that it's pretty good. I don't think it'll ever be a top favorite concealer of mine because it's not as full coverage as I prefer. It's a little bit more on that light to medium side. Again, a little bit more liquidy, really easy to blend out. It feels almost a little bit more hydrating. I think that it looks good. Again, for me, the coverage is just kind of more of that bigger thing. I feel like with Rare Beauty, what I have found from their first wave of products is that it's kind of that like no makeup type of look, and that's not always what I'm going for. So I like this one. I don't think it'll be a favorite, but I like it enough, especially because it's newer, that I'm gonna hold on to it for right now. So that is everything. Those are all of my concealers and my thoughts. Let me pull everything out and we will see how I did for the decluttered. So here are the final totals. The larger section is what I'm keeping, and I'm keeping 15. And the smaller section here is what I'm decluttering, and I am decluttering 7. Like I said in the intro, I didn't think this was going to be any sort of massive declutter, but I'm still really happy with this. All of the concealers that I'm keeping, I really like, I use often. A lot of what I decluttered, you know, kind of leaned more towards the shade matching. There were a few formulas in there that I like, but the shade didn't work for me. But, you know, 15 concealers, I think that's plenty. I think I'm good. So I am happy with this. I hope you enjoyed seeing this declutter and seeing the swatches of everything. Let me know what you would want to see for my next declutter. I would love to know. Other than that though, that is it. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. I hope that you also consider subscribing before you go, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!